What if you could turn your deepest trauma into a path of healing and strength? Today, you'll meet someone who's done just that and more. Our guest, Martha Glory Kartaoui, survived the unimaginable. She's here to share her story from cult survivor to a leader in the wellness industry, offering profound wisdom on reclaiming your life. Through her book, Glory, Going All In, she guides others to rise from darkness to light. Today's conversation is about transformation, healing, and the power of faith. Authors like you've never heard them before, only on Books with Bridgetti. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
Introducing Books with Bridgetti, a lineup of industry experts, award-winning authors, and talented indie authors. Buckle up for an unparalleled journey with us. Meet exceptional authors celebrated globally for their captivating narratives. Our authors craft imaginative stories that stay etched in your mind long after the final page. It's not just stories, it's lingering experiences that stay etched in your mind. Our authors share the inspirations that create mesmerizing page-turning stories. Journeys that embody resilience, that turn setbacks into stepping stones, rejections that spark growth, and hurdles that become a catalyst for creativity. From dramas, mysteries, fantasies, children's stories to reality stories, join us as we delve into the inspiration behind the story, discover how authors breathe life into characters, and meticulously craft plots that keep you turning the page. But wait, there's more. We share stories from indie authors as well as Amazon and New York Times best-selling authors. Get ready for an interview that'll have you on the edge of your seat. Stay tuned. Join us only on Books with Bridgetti.
If you have just joined us, welcome to Books with Bridgetti. Our live stream is made possible by StreamYard and BeLive Media. In today's show, we're going to be talking to Martha Glory Kartaoui, authors like you've never heard them before, only on Books with Bridgetti. Now, if you've never met Martha Kartaoui yet, she is a resilient warrior, a cult survivor, a leader in the wellness industry, and helps people achieve holistic health. As a best-selling author, mentor, dynamic speaker, and workshop facilitator, Martha draws on her personal journey to guide others toward healing and transformation. Her work empowers individuals to reclaim their lives, and her groundbreaking trauma recovery coaching program helps survivors thrive. Martha is also the founder of Cult X, a platform for survivors of cult and high control groups. But who better to tell her story than Martha herself? Let's give her a warm welcome to the show, shall we? Martha, welcome. I am so delighted to welcome you to Books with Bridgetti, and thank you for making the time to come and talk to us today and to share your story with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure, and I am so delighted to have you on the show today. I'm going to jump right in because there's so much to talk about and so much to share. Now, you've lived through an extraordinary transformation. What would you say was a pivotal moment when you knew that you had to share your story with the world?
Wow, that's a really good question. And I've done a lot of these interviews, so thank you for asking that. I think the most pivotal moment for me was when I realized about 18 months ago that everything that I had gone through had been for a purpose leading to this exact moment. and that I would be doing myself an injustice, and I would be doing an injustice for others that need to hear my story in order to find the courage to share their own. And so that really was a pivotal moment for me when I said, like I have to do this, not only for me, but because my clients will learn from it. Other people will learn from it. People watching these podcasts will learn from it. And they will see themselves through my resilience, through my courage, through my story, whatever it is. And so that was the pivotal moment that about 18 months ago, I said, I've got to start doing this. I've got to start sharing my story.
Wow, I think you've nutshelled it pretty well because generally speaking, when people go through an experience and they consider sharing their story, one feels an overwhelming sense of should I, shouldn't I? What are my neighbors going to think? What's my family going to think? What are my friends going to think? And all these things circulate in your mind. And really, the truth about it is it's all in your head. All those people that you fear may know your story are the people that are going to be behind you and are going to support you. So, you need to just get that fear out of your head. So, well done on that.
I definitely struggled with that at first. Even my mom and dad, what were my mom and dad going to say? What were, my extended family going to say? What were my friends going to say? Even though everybody knows my story kind of in a nutshell version, but when I became very raw and authentic and transparent and vulnerable, in telling my story, I struggled with, well, what are they going to say? What are they, but it was all totally in my head, because in the last 6 months that my book is, now out for everybody to read, it's been nothing but support and love that's come from everybody. And so it was all in my head. And thank you for bringing that full circle.
It's a big pleasure, and I'm so glad that you decided to share your journey. Now, how would you say did your personal healing journey influence the development of your trauma recovery coaching program?
It is absolutely fundamentally step by step the things that I had to go through in order to find my own healing. I only feel like I have something to say because I did go through that, because I went through every stage. I went through the grieving. I went through the anger. I went through needing somebody to be held accountable. I went through all of the stages of healing that's required in order to come out of the other side of trauma. And so the things that I share in my book when it comes to my my coaching program are the things that brought me through to the light, to the other side. So it is nothing that I'm speaking about without having to do it, having to experience it, having to be there. Everything is because I did it. I went through it. There's so many other resources that I share because I use those as well. So it's from a very first person point of view of what it took to get me to the other side. Just understanding that not everybody's journey looks exactly the same, but the tools can be used.
Absolutely. And, there's nothing like a first-hand experience. If you were trying to write this book from stories that you had found on the internet or other people, the feeling would be completely different. But because it's your story, it comes from a real place of authenticity, and I think people can tell that. Now, in the book, Glory Going All In, you weave together spirituality and practical recovery because it's your story. How would you say these two elements work together in the healing process?
For me, it was they ran parallel. So, and what I mean by that is I had to come to grips with my faith and my spirituality in order to move forward in my healing. to be frank, I got out of the cult and I was very angry at God. I was very angry at anything to do with the divine or spirituality. I was angry. I felt forbidden. I felt, I felt alone. I felt like I had just been kind of forgotten by God, right? And so I had to take this journey back to my faith and realize what that meant for me outside of the cult. Like I got to decide what God meant for me and what it meant to have a personal relationship with God and what part of that felt right for me. So I had to redefine all of those things because I never had a personal relationship with God. Cult Man was the only relationship with God I ever had. And he was in the middle of all of that, right? So I never had the choice to create a personal relationship with God or the universe or with energy or any of those things, right? So I had to take the time to define that and to decide what felt right and felt aligned with me moving forward in my spiritual journey and in my healing journey.
Martha, could you talk a little bit about the challenges that you faced when you had to revisit your traumatic experiences while writing your book?
Again, this is a great question and thank you. So I've been out of the cult nearly 20 years now. This December, it'll be 20 years. But within the last 6 months of writing the book and then publishing it, I had to go back to those dark places. And many of those dark places that I had to go back to are things that I've taken years to heal through and heal from. And the very interesting part of writing this book is that even though I talked about some very, very dark and things that are still painful, right? I don't have the emotional attachment to them that I once had because of the journey that I've taken to heal through them. So there are still certain things that can trigger me or can take me back to that dark place. But writing them felt very safe and felt very therapeutic and almost cathartic because I've done so much work on myself and in order to heal those dark places and heal that pain. There's never an end point where you're like, I'm healed, I'll never feel that pain again. No, that doesn't exist. But in writing the book, I realized just how far I've come, and that I was really, really proud of. So yeah, thank you for asking that.
Well done. Well done. As you said, I really like that you mentioned one never gets to a place where you say, I'm completely healed. Like, I feel absolutely nothing when I talk about it. That's not really possible just because of our human makeup.
Correct.
It's just that it may not take you back to that dark place in the manner that it did previously, but that little bit will always be with you. I like that you acknowledge that, because that's the reality of what it is. Now, survivors often struggle to find their identity or to rebuild their identity after such an experience. What advice would you offer someone who's watching this and feeling lost after their trauma?
Wow. Again, such a brilliant, brilliant question. Identity is one of those things that I came out of the cult without. I literally did not know who I was, and I did not have an identity because everything that was told to me that I was based on the cult or was based on Cult Man. So I had to rediscover who I was. I had no self-confidence, no self-awareness, no self-love, and no identity. And that is a dangerous combination because you literally feel like a vacant kind of being. And I then, get out of the cult and I'm trying to navigate this big, scary world without any of those things, which are fundamental to anybody's success in navigating the world, right? So I had one of the first things I had to do is really tap back into who I was. And I was nearly 30 years old when I started doing this. And that was a lot of work because I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. I didn't like the body that I was walking around in, because I'd been told so many things about me and about my body and about my personality and about all of these things from Cult Man to keep me small, to keep me, to keep me controlled, to keep me in fear. So I had to pull all of these identities off of myself and set myself free from all of those identities in order to embrace who I was created to be, and in order to embrace Martha Glory at her most simple essence. And that was a challenge, and that took years, because it's programmed into you who you are, right? When that becomes your identity. And the cult was my identity. And so I had to do so much work, inner work, outer work, to really embrace who it was that looked back at me in the mirror. And now I'm really proud to say, like, how far I've come and how happy I am when I look in the mirror. And I do love her, and she deserves, the worthiness of my love. And she's brilliant, and she's courageous, and she's resilient, and she's beautiful, right? All of those things that took me at least a decade to be able to say to myself.
Wow, you've really come a long way. Now, when anyone does a quick search on the internet, they'll find tons and tons of recovery programs. But you founded Cult X for survivors. How does Cult X provide support that's different from the other traditional recovery programs that are available?
So first, it's for cult survivors or controlled group survivors. And there are not many of these organizations out there. The other part of it is that I am the resource because of the things that I've been through, because of the things that I share, the resources that I've collected over the years, right? There are other organizations for people from cults, but they don't encompass the things that my program does, which is the group counseling, the community aspect of it. That's the most important part, is because we don't want to feel alone. We want to know that somebody else understands what we've been through. Somebody else understands the things that we've experienced. And you can't relate to those experiences without being through them, right? Or going through them. And so that's why this is so special. And it builds on that community aspect of, like, every story matters. Your story matters. My story matters, right? And I coached on trauma for the last couple of years, but now I've just honed down and really owned what my specialty is, right? My specialty is, well, I'm a cult girl. I was from the cult. And this is what I know. This is how I know, what to do in order to heal through, right? I had to own this specific niche of who I am, what I've been through, and what I can offer others.
Right. So it's very, very specific. It's not general recovery. It's specific to this. You've niched down on what it is that you can offer and how you do that. How have your experiences in the cult shaped your views about resilience and personal empowerment? And what message do you hope would resonate the most with people that read your book who've endured trauma?
Yes. So my biggest message is, we are not our trauma. Plain and simple. We are not our past. It does not have to define us. It doesn't have to be the end all, right? No matter what we've been through, we make a choice every single day how we choose to show up, what we choose to heal through, what we choose to stay stuck in. And that's where I realized was the biggest thing lacking for so many that come to me, is they feel stuck, but they don't know how to move through. They don't know how, they don't understand that it's a choice every single day. And so then they become empowered when they realize that it is their choice. And then they understand that they have somebody that understands them, right? So I can hold their hand, I can hold them accountable, and we can navigate this thing together. But my biggest message is that you are not alone, and your past, your trauma, your pain doesn't have to define your future. I say, like, you know, being a cult survivor is not a death sentence. Like, there is healing to be had, but it does take courage. It does take healing, and it does take resilience.
Mm,
But
no,
that's a choice.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I like the fact that you mentioned that, you know, you've got a choice every single day. You can make a choice to do things different every single day. Now, a lot of people who leave or who's trying to leave a cult or a high controlling environment, they struggle to regain their identity. And I know you've touched a little bit on it. What was the most pivotal moment for you in reclaiming your personal power? And how do you think others, readers, can find the strength you did?
So, looking back, one of the most pivotal moments for me was I was married. I was married to a very supportive spouse who loved me unconditionally, who was trying to support me in any way that I needed. But I was creating chaos in my marriage because I didn't have an identity. I didn't have self-awareness. I didn't have self under like self-love, and I didn't know how to love him. So I created chaos because I had never been safe to just stop and be, to just literally just to be in a safe relationship, to be in a safe marriage. I had never been in one before, so I didn't know how to just stop and be. And my nervous system was on high alert 24/7 because I'd been running my entire life. So there was a moment when my husband came to me a few years into our marriage, and he was kind of at his wit's end. And he was like, I don't know what to do for you. I don't know what to do for us, but I just know that we can't keep on this way. I was exhausting him with my antics. I was exhausting him with the chaos that I constantly created in our home and in our relationship because I didn't know how to just be. So that was a really huge pivotal moment. And that was when I finally decided to start looking for help. And my physical body was falling apart at the same time as my emotional body, my spiritual body, everything was falling apart and kind of imploding all at the same time, while now my marriage is on the rocks. And so it was kind of this huge implosion that got my attention. And I was finally like, I've got to find help. I've got to find somebody that can help me navigate this. And that's where I really started the first part of my healing journey.
Wow. Now, going all in emphasizes transformation, which speaks to, you know, a little bit about what you mentioned just now. What would you say transformation really means to you personally?
Another great question. So transformation to me, when I'm talking about myself, is coming out of the cult. I was a shell. I was a shell of a human. And now I feel like I exude the love and light that was given to me by God and who I was created by, right? Like I feel that the shell to what you see in front of you now is transformation and understanding all of the things that I had to go through in order to get to this point that I am now, being able to offer, experience and offer a different way of looking at things in order to see yourself and be able to offer healing through those experiences.
Martha, we've talked a lot about you. We're going to take a really quick break. And when we come back, we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about how you can help your readers and our audience today.
Excellent.
Introducing Books with Bridgetti, a lineup of industry experts, award-winning authors, and talented indie authors. Books with Bridgetti.
Welcome back. You're watching Books with Bridgetti. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you, the viewer, listeners, readers, can get some help from Martha that is going to help you shift gears. So, Martha, how do you help people reclaim their sense of power after feeling controlled or manipulated?
So in the book, I break it into 3 sections. I break it into the cult story, and then my healing journey, and then my coaching principles that I teach. I also share them in group retreats, in group coaching, and also in workshops. So the going all in principles are the things that I teach in order to find transformation, to find healing, to re-identify with the essence of who you are and who you were created by God to be. So interwoven is spirituality, interwoven is awareness of your mind, body, spirit connection, and interwoven is just re-identifying with what sets you on fire when you think about what's important to you, what lights you up. And so these are all questions that I ask in order to help you navigate to who you are and who you want to be. And then what do we have to let go of, and what do we have to surrender to and from in order to get where we want to go?
Now, my next question is one I think a lot of people struggle with. Whenever we shift gears into something else, we want transformation like that. And unfortunately, life doesn't quite work that way. So how do you, because trauma recovery is a long journey, it's not a sprint, it's a journey. You're in it for the long haul.
Yes.
How do you help your clients stay motivated and hopeful?
Yes.
Especially when their progress seems or feels slow to them.
Absolutely. And that's a great point to remind us of, right? So like I said a little bit ago, the healing is, there's never an end point, where there's never a point where we get to and we're like, finally we're, but there are mile markers. And for me, I have the references of when I started this journey, where I was, how I felt. I felt hopeless. I felt alone. I felt misunderstood. All of those things. I was grossly overweight. I had gastrointestinal issues. I had fibromyalgia. I had migraines. All of the physical manifestations that were taking place at the same time as all of the other things were taking place. So for me, I had these mile markers where, okay, my migraines had lessened, my back pain had lessened, my fibromyalgia was gone, right? So I had these physical manifestation mile markers of my physical body responding positively to the inner work that I was doing. And so that kept me motivated. And when I talk with my clients, that's what keeps them motivated. Or when somebody recognizes that they are no longer as negative, or they are no longer, have suicidal tendencies, or they no longer have, feel like they're constantly fighting with themselves for something or in something. So there's these mile markers that keep us motivated. But most importantly, understanding it's a choice. every single day to stay motivated, to understand that you are worth the healing, that you are worthy of the healing, and the people around you will reap the benefits of your healing as well as you do. It is a cyclical and generational healing that happens when you focus on you.
Wow, very, very practical ways of helping people to stay motivated and reminding them of the little steps that they've taken along the way, or the little wins that they've had. Now, something a lot of trauma survivors struggle with is the guilt and the shame that goes with having felt, having been caught in this situation. How does your coaching program help them address guilt and shame?
So guilt and shame is one of those things, again, is a choice. And when I came to understand that I could literally make the choice not to be ashamed and not to have guilt around those things, and coming from the things that I did and the things that happened to me physically, sexually, emotionally, spiritually, right? I carried so much guilt and shame, so much guilt and shame. And it was like a backpack full of rocks that I carried around nonstop. And when I understood that literally I could take that backpack off and I could just stand up straighter and I could say, I'm just not putting that backpack on. Again, that's my choice. And it is that easy. Yes, you have to retrain your brain. Yes, you have to reconnect those neurosynapses in order to create new neural pathways of understanding that we no longer do things the way that we once did, right? Yes. So you have to repetitively put that backpack, take that backpack off, sit up, straighter, and look at yourself. And I'm not accepting the guilt and shame around this any longer. It doesn't serve me. It's not aligned with who I am, who I'm becoming. So therefore I'm leaving it here. I'm taking off the backpack of guilt and shame. And then once you do that over and over, it eventually becomes who you are. I no longer have guilt or shame about my past at all. Zero, zilch, nada. I don't have, people ask me all the time, are you still mad at your parents? No, I forgave my parents. I forgave Cult Man because I didn't forgive him because he earned my forgiveness. I forgave Cult Man because it was too big of a burden to carry that around. And I needed to take that backpack off and I needed to leave it once and for all. So I forgave him so that I could move on, so that I could be a healthier, happier version of myself, because I have things to do in this life and I don't need to carry around that unforgiveness or that hatred or that betrayal. I don't need it. It doesn't serve me any longer.
I really like that. I like that you said you need to constantly remind yourself to take the backpack off until it becomes muscle memory, because it is something that'll come up every single day sometimes. And every single day you need to remind yourself that it's a choice. You
Yes.
can decide to take that rucksack off your back. I really like that practical advice. Now, in your book, you also share the idea that trauma can be a beginning. Can you explain that a bit?
Yes. So for me, recognizing my trauma as a gift helped me to find purpose in the pain. And I know that sounds weird, but when you dwell on the bad or on the trauma or on the pain of your past, you can't find purpose in it. So when I finally was able to look at my past and my trauma and then the healing work that I've done since it, I found purpose. And my purpose was now, how do I now take this and go help others? that had the same similar feelings as I did, when I was stuck, when I felt abandoned, when I felt alone, when I felt misunderstood, when I felt like nobody would ever understand me, when I felt suicidal, when I felt like the world was crashing in on me, right? How do I now find purpose in my trauma as a new beginning to move forward?
Now, my next question to you is, a lot of many of us have not just one story, but lots of stories. But we don't all write about our stories. And when we start to write, we try and figure out what is it that we want to share most with the world. For you, how did writing about your experience bring you closure, either closure or a new understanding of your past?
Yes. Like I stated earlier in this interview, writing, the exercise of writing was extremely therapeutic. It was extremely cathartic in understanding how far I've come. And because it's not often that you're able to look at the bigger picture, right? Like every day, I don't realize the enormity of the things that I've healed from, the enormity of the things that I have been through in my life, and how amazing it is that I'm sitting here in front of you. Like that is, to when I had to really look at it from the big picture, I became really proud of all the work that I've done. And I'm really excited about the future and what I get to do now that I'm moving forward to help other people. But it took me writing it and being able to see the big picture to say, wow, look how far I've come. Look at the things that I had to heal through and from. And look what I did with it. And look what I am doing with it. And that was really purposeful, and that was really encouraging for me as not only a writer and an author, but also as somebody that can relate to others who have been through similar traumas.
Well done, well done. Now, your workshops that you offer to your clients focus on healing mind, body, and spirit. Talk a little bit about what that holistic approach looks like in practice.
So everything's connected. Everything is connected, mind, body, and spirit. And when I understood that connection, like trauma being stored on a cellular level, which we talk a lot about in trauma-informed recovery, is that just understanding how our trauma is stored on a cellular level. Like there's a wonderful book called Body Keeps the Score, where it really lays it out and gives a good understanding of what that really means. But what that means is that everything that we go through has to be, is accounted for in our body. And so if we just ignore it, eventually our physical body starts to break down. Well, when our physical body starts to break down, so does our emotional body, our nervous system, our immune system, our cognitive, impairment begins to happen. So everything is connected. So you cannot focus on your spiritual body or your spirit without focusing on your physical and your mind as well. So everything's connected. So we take a very holistic and mind, body, spirit connection approach when when I'm doing these workshops, because it's all connected. You cannot separate one without the other. And we get so specific as to like talk about nutrition, to talk about exercise, to talk about sleep, because all of those things are important when we're talking about healing, because it's all connected.
Now, talking about holistic approach, as you have, what role would you say does community play in the healing process for survivors of cults or high control groups?
So, again, what a wonderful question. And what I have found is that people from these types of experiences, until they find people that have shared experiences, they do not want to talk about it because they very much feel like nobody will understand them. So for the longest time, the only people that knew about my cult experience were people that I was related to, right? Either my family or my extended family or very close friends, because I was so scared to speak about it to anybody else, because what would they think? A cult? I didn't want to be this enigma, this circus freak type of person, because the connotation of somebody in a cult is somebody that, well, has been brainwashed, somebody that's stupid, somebody that's ignorant. And those things are so far from the truth. So it was very hard for me to want to share my story until I was able to move past what I cared other people to think about me. And I had to move past that and say, no, this is for my own healing and what that means for me. So yeah, I don't know if that's specifically what you were asking, but
Yeah, you've absolutely nailed it.
okay.
That's exactly what I was wanting to know from
So we
you.
need a community in order to really feel less alone.
Absolutely. I've seen that with myself. I live with chronic pain, and community means so much. Being in communities with like-minded people that get you is really so important for your sanity. It validates who you are, and it really does help you move forward. Now, in your journey with helping clients, can you tell us about a specific breakthrough that you've witnessed in one of your clients that had a profound impact on you? You don't have to tell us who the client is, but could you just give us an idea?
Yes. I mean, I could tell you success stories all day long, but the one that comes to mind is I was working with a woman for about a year, and it was when I first met her, she was so chaotic. She reminded me so much of myself so many years ago when I began my journey. And she had been in a high controlled group, and she had been out for maybe 8 to 10 years. So she had been out quite a while as well, but she was still caught very much in that fight or flight chaos. And so when we started working together, it was these small incremental changes that started adding up to just the overall behavioral change that her own family started seeing in her. And then I got a thank you letter from her husband. I got a thank you letter from her grown son. And like those things, like you can't make this stuff up, right? Like when somebody says, hey, thank you so much for helping my mom. Like I haven't ever understood her, because she didn't know how to put it into words. She didn't know how to express herself, but she communicates better with us now. She's able to express herself without getting overwhelmed, right? When we are constantly in fight or flight, it's very easy to get overwhelmed. And so when we worked on her nervous system, we're able to calm her down. Now she was able to communicate without becoming overwhelmed. And so that's the one that comes to mind. But I have lots that are just like that of just, people that are able to find themselves and create an identity that they didn't know existed. And they can love that person that is themselves.
Thanks for sharing that, Martha. Now, if someone is watching this interview right now and still feeling trapped in a traumatic situation, what is your advice to them? What is the first step that they can take towards reclaiming their life?
Wow. The first step is just understanding that you are worth and worthy of making that choice for yourself. And that I wish that I had felt worthy of my own escape from the cult. I didn't. I wished that I had felt worthy of my own healing. I didn't. It took me many years to find those things. I thought I deserved the chaos that was my life. I thought I deserved the punishments that I had received, right? And so just understanding that you are worthy of a safe and secure and stable life, that if I could give them anything, that would be it, that you are worth those things. And if you are stuck in something that somebody is controlling those things, then it's probably not a good thing. And you should probably look at where it's coming from.
Martha, thank you so much for the practical advice that you've shared. Now, have you got a copy of your book with you?
I do.
Can you hold that up? Tell me, now it's a #1 international best-selling book. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Tell me a bit about the cover.
So Glory is my middle name. And for many, many years, I ran from my name because Cult Man gave me my name. And so then after I went through my healing journey, or began my healing journey, I really embraced the Glory name. And for me, the light that you see in the cover is what I feel like I am now to the world and to my family and to everybody that I meet. And so I want to exude the glory of God, the glory of Martha, the glory of light and love, and take that everywhere that I go. And going all in is, of course, my coaching principles that I talk about in the back of the book.
What's next for you, Martha?
So I'm writing a second book, and I'm also really building the platform for CultX, and really just motivated and encouraged to create healing experiences for people from cults or high control groups, and to just help others to find who they were created to be. That's my mission. That's my passion. And I just want to leave this planet better than I found it. So that's my mission every single day.
Martha, thank you so much for taking the time to come and share your story and your book and your passion, and to also just talk about how you help people.
Thank you so much.
Joining you on Books with Bridgetti. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us. And to our viewers out there who's joined us, if you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And that way you won't miss out on any future interviews with amazing authors like Martha Glory. So until next time, keep reading, stay inspired, and remember, every great story begins with a dream. Until next time, take care. Thank you for joining us on Books with Bridgetti. Join us next time for industry experts and award-winning authors.
I think this might be, I've been on over 24 different podcasts and radio shows in the last couple of months. And this has to be one of the most sophisticated, what the kids like to teach called bomb.com shows and presentations that I've ever been on. It's fantastic. Thank you for having me here.
Available wherever great books are sold near you.